Hello, hello, my friends in Sasquatch land. Hello, 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 my friends in Sasquatch land, and welcome to another Tuesday night at Discover Sasquatch Studios. And tonight, we have another great guest for you all. Mr. Barry Browning from Mississippi is in the studio and waiting backstage at the moment. Hello, hello, all my friends in the chat. How is everybody doing tonight? I just want to start the show off by saying thank you for all the kind and words and reaching out and prayers for my eye. The eye has officially, about 95% healed up. I could actually read what's going on in the comment section tonight. So I thank you very, very much for all the prayers and reaching out. It does mean a lot, and the support is awesome. So hello, everybody in the chat. Hello, Mr. Steve Wolf. I just want to thank you, Steve, for the nice gift that you gave me for my birthday. It was much appreciated, but you didn't have to do it, but it was very kind of you, sir. Hello, Cryptid Crystal. Miss Diane Fowler's with us. The Iron Dogger is in the house. Be kind. The one and the only Squatch Father is also in the house. Alfred Santariga. Hello, my friend Alfred. Michael Haywood's with us. People are pouring in to see Barry. I've gotten the last few days gotten a chance to talk to Barry a lot more than we have. We've talked before, but not as much as we've had in the last few days. And you get together with these people, and there's just you get so much in common, and you have so many interactions that are the same. And it's going to be a really great show, and I can't wait to hear more from Barry himself. So before we go any further, I just want to tell you next week. We have a very, it's like a, I don't never before seen footage of what you'll have to tune in to see what it is. That was sent to myself and MK Davis to stabilize and look at, and what we believe and what we see is pretty incredible. So, our friend Dee Harrison is the one that captured this footage. MK is excited about showing it. I'm excited about showing what we stabilize, and that will be live next week at 8 o'clock Eastern. Never before seen footage of what is to believe to be a Sasquatch. We can't say 100%, but you guys are going to be really impressed with this footage. We worked on it for a little while, and we finally got the go-ahead from Dee to show you all, so we're going to do a show on that next week. So I got that done. I said hello to everybody. Oh, wait, one more thing. Shirts. We are looking into getting a new camera, and we are going to start selling these shirts. Can you see them? It's a nice design. I don't know. The prices are going to be like right around $25 a piece with shipping. Right around there. I'm not sure yet. We're going to have all different sizes, so please, if you want to help us and contribute and get a nice t-shirt and help us get our new video camera, because we have another big announcement coming very soon that has to deal with the camera. So that's all coming up in the near future. So thanks again, everybody, for the eye. Thank you for all being here. And without further ado, let's bring out our new friend at Discover Sasquatch, Mr. Barry Browning. hello, my friend Barry. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Chris. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for taking time out of your night and spending it with us here at Discover Sasquatch. We're very excited to have you here, and I can't wait to hear more and more about what you've experienced in the Bigfoot world.
Thank you for the invite. I'm very excited to be here.
All right, yeah, we met each other through Kerry, and let's all never forget Kerry. Prayers to Kerry and prayers to Linda, and well, that's how we met, and a lot of people I'm sure have met through Kerry, but let's just Kerry is missed, and he's never forgotten here at Discover Sasquatch, that's for sure. So as we move along here, Barry, why don't you tell, I'm sure there's a lot of people that know a lot about you, and I'm sure there's people in the audience that don't know a lot about you. Why don't you let everybody get a little taste of Barry Browning and what he does for a living, and what brought you to the Bigfoot world?
Pretty much my whole life I've worked in logistics. Companies such as UPS, Consolidated Freightways, Everett, Old Dominion. For about the last 5 years, I had actually been doing working with someone else, remodeling kitchens and bathrooms. Kind of had a little falling out, and so right now I'm kind of in between jobs, but pretty much planning on starting one here before the week's over with, and it's gonna be more of a just something to do as I'm still looking, because I'm really trying to get back in to the transportation industry, back in logistics, because I did it for 25 plus years, and it's what I do best. So as far as Bigfoot, that really started as a child, listening to my grandmother's, one in Monroe County, Mississippi, which is where my dad grew up, and one in Neshoba County, Mississippi, which is where my mom grew up. Both, hearing them talk, well, one more than the other, a lot more than the other, hearing them talk about, boogers, quote unquote. Never knew really what that was. Later on, got into Bigfoot, and through watching podcast, actually Bigfoot Outlaws is probably where I met, blended. Okay, boogers, Bigfoot, same thing. That's what she was always talking about. That's kind of what opened my mind up to it. But I got my start, cut my teeth, so to speak, with Bigfoot Outlaws. From there, gravitated to Sawdust Beast, Bigfoot Odyssey. I'm pretty much that one. You invite me, I'll go. If I can get there, I'll go.
With you on that one. That's a lot of fun. I love to travel myself.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell everybody about your first experience? Now we talked a little about that, and after you tell it, we'll dive into that subject a little bit. How we but let everybody know what you believe to be your first Sasquatch experience.
I believe my first Sasquatch experience probably happened at my grandmother's when I was between 11, 12, 13 years old. My dad had a .22 rifle that, he would just let me, walk around the woods, and I would just shoot, just for the fun of it. Left at my grandmother's house that day, walked about a 5-minute walk to the barn. Actually, made it through the barn to the other side. And the next thing I remember, is my dad saying my name, and I believe he grabbed my arm. And then he goes into, I told you, I can't remember the exact time frame. I think it was an hour, and I think it had been 2.5 hours that I had been gone. So other than the 5 to, even if let's say a slow walk, 10-minute walk, I had been standing there staring at the woods, and I never saw anything. I can't say, I think that was my first experience. But I cannot explain to you why I sat there for an hour and a half staring in the woods, and I can't remember a single minute of it. It's kind of like when my dad said my name and touched me, it kind of popped me out of it. Just my dad being the way he was, and me being as young as I was, I just kind of played it off. You know, my initials, it's kind of funny. My initials are B.O.B. and my dad used to always call me, you know, tell me it's still for bad little boy. So I just, you know, kind of let him think that I just stood out, you know, stayed a little too long out there. And because, you know, you're somewhere around 12 years old, you don't know what to think, you know. And I don't know if I could ever been close enough to anybody to explain to them what actually was going on, and that I don't remember being there, you know. And how do you tell somebody that, especially that young? Uh, but that's I think my first experience. If it was an experience, you know, with Bigfoot, it was an experience with something, because something got inside my head and froze me for probably between an hour and an hour and a half. I mean, I never even shot the rifle that day. Never, not one time.
Now, afterwards, did you forget about this incident for, you know, did it just, you know, did it linger, or did you just tuck it away and just went on with normal everyday life?
I think it lingered for the weekend and probably the next week. And then, you know, you're a kid, you're 12, you know, playing sports, you know, doing this just normal day-to-day activity, discovering, you know, females, so to speak. You know, you're 12, 13 years old. But it blended away for a lot of years. It's like I didn't forget it, but it was something I never thought about much, never dwelt on. And when, you know, kind of boogers, Bigfoot, and then hearing other people's encounters and or possible encounters, that's kind of where I tied it in on maybe something happened that day. Maybe, you know, I had my feelings on what happened that day. I think if you can be marked by them, and I personally believe you can. I know I cannot prove that, but I believe you can be marked by them. And I believe if you can be marked by them, I was marked that day. Later on down, what really got me into it, when I heard the Sierra sounds for the first time, I was living in North Alabama. Actually, I believe I was working for Avery Express at that time, as a sales executive, and I had seen the Patterson-Gimlin film. I'm one that saw it the first time, never doubted that it was real. But when I heard those sounds, it was something about those sounds that just kind of just took over. And I haven't looked back since, really. It took a couple of 3 years of gradually getting into it, because I knew nobody. I don't even know if I knew anybody that believed in it. Maybe somebody did, but it was nothing, a topic that ever came up. So, but that's really what kind of, grabbed me and kind of pulled me in. And when I moved, my dad kind of fell into bad health, and I moved back to Mississippi. And about that time is when I discovered the old Bigfoot Outlaw podcast. And I'll never forget, I listened to every one of them, and then I realized that they had stopped making them. And it just, it was just a sinking feeling. I was like, don't tell me there's no more. And to my astonishment, about 2 weeks later, they started making, them again. So, I got to get right back on the bandwagon. And learned a lot. I can't explain how much information were on those old shows, and how much I learned just from listening. And but when I would listen to it, it was like I was sitting in college about to fail a class, and I had to listen to every single word. But that's the way I listened to it. It was almost like I was listening to a bunch of college professors talking about something, and something I knew I was going to be tested on later. And I would listen. I was the type that I would listen and turn right back around, start it over again, and listen to it all over. It was just fascinating, that's really where, the fascination grew even more, with that.
All right. So you mentioned something about being marked, and you had this incident when you were young, and it's very common. I have talked to so many people where they've had experiences when they were a young child with these guys, and something's happened and they tucked it away, and then something triggers it. There's a trigger that happens later on in life. What was that trigger that brought that feeling back to you that you experienced that day when you were a little boy?
I'm just going to be honest. I don't know if it was just a single trigger. If it was, I don't remember it. I think it's just, something that, I had in the back of my mind, and I'm sure I probably heard somebody's encounter that was very similar to that. And then, probably through the Bigfoot Outlaw, podcast. And I'm sure that's where, everything started to make a lot more sense to me. And I kind of, able to, to tie it together.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're listening to the podcast. You got the bug. You've seen Patty. You listen to the podcast. What's the next step for Barry? Where did Barry go from there? Once you got the bug. Now you know. Now you want to go out looking for these guys, I imagine. But what was the next step?
I did, and I did a lot of writing, looking, trying to parlay what I was hearing on those podcasts to what I was seeing in the woods. But I was living in Madison County, Mississippi, right off Persimmon Creek, which feeds into the Big Black River. I was married at the time. We were in the process of getting divorced. We still lived, together at the same place. We both worked night shift at a Nissan car plant here. We went out on the back porch that night, because we slept in the daytime. Went on the back porch that night, and I talked with her about it and so forth, and she'd roll her eyes and everything else. So we're sitting there, and of course, things are tense between us. So we're not even, really not only not talking, not even looking at each other. And off from Persimmon Creek, I heard the first scream I'd ever heard live. When I turned around to ask her, "Did you hear that?" She was running past me into the house. That was probably the first. And of course, when I heard that, if I thought I was into it before then, once I heard that, I was, 125% into it. And then that's where I, kind of reached out to the Outlaws and went on my first camp out with them. Met a lot of people there: Cam Buckner, the Beast guys, Vicky Fulcher. I think Dan Rick was there. A lot of people, were there. But the weird thing that happened in that camp out, I'm headed to the camp out, and this is actually a sighting of one that I believe I had. Headed to the camp out, and I looked to my right, and I know I'm and to go to the campground, I was going to take a left, but to my right was a tree break of a tree that was probably a foot wide or more. And I noticed it, and I'm just kind of just staring at it as I go past. Well, as soon as I turn back around, I realized I just missed my turn. Well, I went on down a little bit. We're in the middle of somewhere around Carroll, Grenada County, back road. So I just real quickly, I just kind of cut over into the grass, pull my passenger side front tire and passenger tire into the grass. I just kind of spun my truck around. When I spun my truck around, about time I'm looking back in the direction, the opposite direction that I was going, I catch something coming out of the woods on my right. It took me until it went into the wood line on the left before my eyes caught back up with it. It's like I saw it, and then I'm trying to look at it, and it's like it's always just a little bit ahead of my eyes. I don't know if I've ever had anything do that since then. Did I per se see a Bigfoot? No, I didn't, because the thing was moving so fast. I literally could not even see the arms and legs moving. It was just a blur, but it was huge, blinding color. And then when I pulled back up to where it ran across the road, it ran across the road right beside where that tree break was. which I always thought was kind of ironic. But I think what it was just going to pass behind me, thinking that like it may be done, thousands of times before. It just did not expect me to turn around. It did not, and the way I turned around, I didn't stop, like that. I just spun the truck around. I'm in a pickup, light back in. I even believe the ground was a little bit wet at the time. But I think when I spun it around, I surprised it, and I think somehow or another, it went into, overdrive times about 12 because I've seen pretty much any kind of animal that around the southeast that you can see run, and there's a lot of them that are fast, but I've never had anything to where I literally could not see the arms and legs. I knew you could see that something was moving, but you could not make out the individual arms or the individual legs. It was just a blur.
So you're hanging out with the Outlaws and all this. Did you always just stick to the campouts, or did you start doing your own thing? Did you start making your own path? Did you start I take for instance, we do a pattern hike here, and we look for signs, and that's just our approach. We gifted. And did you do any of that, or did you continue to the campouts and hanging out with the group
both? I continue to go to the camp out. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry, my fault.
Didn't mean to. We still went to the camp outs, but started researching with a couple of guys that and when I say this, y'all, I was never a quote unquote member of the Bigfoot Outlaws. But it was me and a couple other guys that were trying to be members at that time. So I started researching with him, and we did a lot of research around central Mississippi, such as Bienville National Forest, some forest lands to the west of here between Clinton and Vicksburg. But just, started getting out, just, doing a lot of nighttime stuff. I can't say that, we didn't, well, I mean, we did. Most of the time, the hikes were mostly daytime hikes, but we would get out a lot, and what we would see some kind of what we thought was tree sign. And then, we would shut it out, and then we would get out and then go into the woods, 50, 100, 150, or however, however far we felt comfortable, or however far we kept seeing sign. But at the time, we're really, really, even though we've probably been listening to information about the subject and listening to people that knew a lot about the subject, you're still so new to it. Or at least that's the way I look back on it. I was still so new to it. I just didn't know it. You're trying to, you really kind of figure out what to do. What is the best thing to do? And it's more of a trial and error and just experimenting and, and doing stuff such as that.
All right. So, what did you guys do? What was your strategy while out looking for them?
We mainly would just rode through Bienville National Park, and the other area that's west of here at nighttime, and find tree structures, and then we would just try to look, try to do certain things. At this time, I mean, I say this very humbly, but I mean, people know that I do Bigfoot calls, and evidently I do them kind of well. But we weren't even doing that yet. I don't even think we've been taught any calls yet. Because we had to make a few campouts before they trusted us. Showing us the calls. And for very good reason. I don't speak with the member that of the group that taught me most of the calls anymore. But at the time when he taught me these calls, he specifically asked me, told me, however you want to look at it, do not just show this to anybody, because and exactly what he told me, he said, what I do not want is this being taught to somebody and then them going out and doing it. You just don't go out a mile and a half in the woods and do a Bigfoot call. I don't. And his main thought about it was, I don't want to get anybody killed. Whether me and that gentleman see eye to eye, doesn't matter. I gave him my word. that I would make sure I didn't do that, and I've always kept it.
Well, you're a good man for that. There's a lot of that doesn't happen, and it's very important to speak the truth and keep your word and do the things that you say you're going to do, because that's what we're all in it for, right? Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, what was one of the craziest interactions you had when you first started? I mean, when you were with the Outlaws or with your group, or what was like one of the craziest episodes you had when
I'll
you
tell you
first?
this. Oh, well, I don't know about crazy. I'll tell you this. Not only was this the scariest I've ever been in my life, but this is where, and I've told this story before. We were at some Indian mounds, far Indian mounds in North Mississippi. We were actually at an outing. I think it was an outlaw outing. And we had they had gone behind these Indian mounds before and made calls, and they would always get answers, and they thought they were getting answers from the Indian mounds. So we had the plan that we were gonna go, and a few of us were gonna. There's a little pull-in area there at the mounds. It's got a little building. It's got of course some signage up and some history that you can read about them and so forth. But they were gonna drop us off there, and to get to the part behind the mounds, you kind of got to go a little way out of the way down a dirt road, and they were going to go back behind the mounds and make calls. And I was with the Beach guys, and I'll never forget Debbie Jones. There was about 3 or 4 other people that were supposed to go with us, and we left camp at night and went and ate a good dinner. And between dinner and getting to those Indian mounds, those 3 or 4 other guys, tummy aches, stomach upset, and everybody just kind of dropped out. So you got Larry, Mark, and Debbie, who have done this and done a pretty good bit of it, and me, and I had, I've never been in the spot like this. But I'll never forget it. I literally had to sit down, lean up against a stone wall that's very nicely built stone wall there at the little pull off there. And I'm literally talking to myself, and if you're going to do this, this is it. I mean, everybody else is backed out, but you had 3 or 4 other kind of unproven folks there, or new folks, not really unproven, and that's probably not fair to say, just newer than the other 3 that I was with. And I was so scared. I was so in these Indian mountains, it's a good quarter to half a mile walk through them. It's not just walk up one Indian mound, that's it. We literally left the little pavilion there, walked through the Indian mounds while they're doing calls. Looking back on it, we should have realized, if they see us pull up, drop us off, and then see all them leave, and then eventually end up behind the Indian mounds, they probably had already knew something, that we were up to something. We did get answers that night, but it was from the woodline. But we walked through that field. I'll never forget. I had Mark's Sony camera, and every time they did a call, I was expecting one to come running past. I was expecting one to just scream, right, within 10, 15, 20 yards from us, which never happened. But I can't say that's more the craziest thing that's ever happened. But as far as being the most scared, I've never been that scared. Other than maybe, I got growled at one time in Bienville, me and one of those guys that actually backed out that night from going. We got growled at one time in Bienville, and this spot in Bienville is still, I know we were talking about it last night, I believe it was. This spot to this day scares me. There ain't a spot in LBL that scares me more than this spot in Bienville. Sometimes I can pull up, and I go a lot off of feelings. I go a lot off of, just whatever it is out there is telling me. But I pulled up there so many times. I think I've even had some people actually literally called them and put them on speakerphone just to let them hear how quiet it is at this spot. This is also a spot that we found out about it from a gentleman that had, and this is a old story that goes back. If you remember the story about the guy in Mississippi who was feeding them every week, he was carrying fruit out, a cooler full of fruit out to them, dumping the cooler full of fruit into the cooler. And he'd been doing it for 2 to 3 years. Well, same day of the week comes that he always goes, and he realizes he doesn't have his wallet. Well, at this point in time, the information as far as feeding them was not out there. Half the community feed them, half the community was not feeding them. So it was kind of still up in the air. He went out there that day, did not have any, food with him, but never dreamed anything would happen. And they got very belligerent with him. They chased him back to his car, screamed at him. Which, and he said when it was running behind me, he said, Barry, he said, I couldn't make myself look behind me. He said, I'm running as fast as I can run. He said, probably faster than I've ever ran in my life, even as a kid, and he's a grown adult at this time. He said, but I couldn't make myself turn. He said, but I swear I could feel the breath of it on, on the back of my neck. He said, it's like it was just toying with me. It screamed at him, and he said, I can't tell you, the scream itself pushed me forward. He said, but it screamed, and next thing I know, he was on all fours sliding in the grass, very close to his car by this time, and he starts starts throwing up. Got in his vehicle, went home. About 3.5 to 4 hours later, him and his girlfriend lived together, and they just as they're going to sleep, just like stories you've heard before, he said I'll never understand how right when we would fall asleep or right before we would fall asleep, bam, they would hit the house. Well, that went on for 3 nights until his girlfriend, who was not a believer, told him, hey, you're going to do something. You're going to go out and apologize to these things or whatever. And trying to make a long story short, he did. He walked out on his back porch.
Well, it's frozen. Hopefully he comes back. Hold on a second. Barry, can you hear me? If you can, go back in and come back out, in and out. Take yourself off and then come back again. You're frozen. Oh, boy. All right, well, we got a little technical difficulty going on here. He's coming back. He'll be back. So there's a little map I'm trying to lay out here with him having this interaction when he's young, and now he's experienced these the Sasquatch at the Indian Mounds, and he's getting those feelings, and the progression's happening, and a lot of us experience that progression from what you think they are until what gets presented to you along the line. So there he is. All right, there you are.
My apology.
It's all right. Wait, hold on. You're still frozen. There you go. So you were talking about the two. They were in their bed and the house was being slapped. We'll go from there.
Right. After the third night of having no sleep, and she's not even a believer, but she told him, she said, you got to do something. You got to go outside and apologize for these things, whatever you need to do. He went on his back porch, explained what happened, explained why he didn't bring any food that day. He said he remembers something, what he thought was an acorn landing and bouncing across the back deck. He walked back inside, laid down. The house was never hit again.
Right.
And that kind of leads you into, especially it led me into, that's probably where I really started thinking there's a lot more to these things than we
Right. I was just talking to everybody about why you were gonna. So I'm trying to lay it out on a map where, it's like the same path that I had. I had the experience when I was a kid. Didn't know it was a Sasquatch experience until later on in life when I had my first up close with a Sasquatch experience. The Indian mounds. I want to talk a little about that. Now, you guys are at these Indian mounds, and this was when you were first starting off. This wasn't now. You know what I mean? Were you guys thinking that they were something special now? Because I mean, back then, or were you weren't even there? We were just thinking that they were Indian mounts.
We just knew that, and these Indian mounds are right off. I named them all. They're right off the Natchez Trace. But I didn't realize there was anything special to them. I've always had a fascination with Indian mounds. Matter of fact, the road that I grew up on is Indian Mound Drive, in Clinton, Mississippi. I thought about that years later. It was just kind of ironic that was the name of the road that I grew up on. But I still, go to a lot of Indian mounds. Some folks that I've, kind of gone and done stuff with seem to be kind of scared of Indian mounds. They don't. I mean, I feel like if you protect yourself, that you're going to be okay. And everything's worked out so far. As with me, I mean, I'm not had anything negative as far as anything happening from an Indian mound. But we do know. I mean, it's obvious that they have there's some form of attraction to the Indian mounds. I know of an Indian mound close about 7 miles north of here, where I'd always heard that some of the Indian mounds, had tunnels and holes up under them, and I found one on Google Maps that you can see the hole right in front of the Indian mound. It's just that it's on private property. You can tell that they throw brush and debris over in it, just trying, I guess, to cover it up, so to speak. But you can plainly see the hole just go straight down into the ground.
Yeah, Flat Rock has a couple on his property, and they're pretty neat. They're very high in energy. The shaman put them there for reasons, because they could feel the Earth's energy in those spots. Are you flesh and blood at this point? Are you thinking that these guys are monkeys that can hide? Where are you at this point back then?
I'm flesh and blood, still flesh and blood. Because that's kind of what we were preached to back then. But at that point in time, I think a lot of folks would still say flesh and blood, because not enough people had come out and said and had talked about the other aspect of it. Now as we've progressed, and you got more and more people, looking and doing things, and having experiences. I mean, and like I think I told it to you last night. I still believe they're flesh and blood. They're just a flesh and blood that can do some very amazing things that we do not understand.
Right, I agree with you 100%. They come here, they hunt, they eat, they defecate, they do everything. They leave prints, do everything a flesh and blood animal would do. But there is something else. Maybe one day we'll figure it out. But that's going to be for our second show. Barry's going to come back for another show, and we're going to do it the other side of Sasquatch. Talk about all that side. But as you're progressing here, and it's just the same, you hear from a lot of people that it's like the same steps, and it's very interesting to me to see it and to hear it. And I've had many guests that have had the same route you've taken, Barry. They start and they get hooked, and they have that thing when they're young, and then they progress, and then they're in areas like you're investigating in Indian Mound places, and now you would think of it totally different, but back then you didn't know, but you were still in those areas. It's kind of like you were meant to be there, is what I'm trying to get at. You were meant to be in those areas. So how did you have like an up close encounter with a Sasquatch? Did I mean like a very visual sighting?
The closest I've probably been to one was when on 168. And I'll lightly touch on this because I know we're going to touch it, on the second show. In the same place where, and most of the people in chat have seen, the orb footage and know that I filmed the orbs down there. But I had a sighting of one probably 20 to 25 feet away from me, at the same exact place where we were seeing those orbs. I mean, that orb was going right over this area where we saw that particular one numerous times during the nights that we were filming it. There was a lot of brush, a lot of, it's Florida. There's a lot of stuff in between us. And I had another researcher that was with me that, it was a lot easier to go around to try to get to it. So he told me to stay there. He goes to the left and goes around, and I'll never forget his eyes. I mean, I saw the stress, I saw the fear, I saw this ain't good, for me. Is what I was, I mean, because his eyes would cut to the other, and then cut to me, cut to that one, cut to me. And then lo and behold, the other researcher, I don't remember if he stepped on something, and I believe he did, because it's like my eyes started to go towards him, and before my eyes even got to him, I had already told myself, no, don't take, I knew better than take my eyes off of him. But in the heat of the moment, you hear that noise, it's just a involuntary reaction. But my eyes never even made it over to the other researcher. Right back, it's gone. And the only thing I yelled was it hit the ground. I knew it had hit the ground. I mean, I don't believe it. I'm not saying they can't probably disappear. I don't know. But I believe it probably went down, straight to the spider crawl, and then, crawled its way out of there.
Do you have interactions almost every time you go out? Do you hear something or have a rock tossed at you, or know they're there, or hear them, or find a print, or interaction almost every time out?
In a way, I hate you asking me that because I gotta answer it. Yeah, a lot of times, yes, most, but I want to explain it like this. I don't know how I feel, what I feel, but I think a lot of times I'm gonna have that interaction because I'm gonna have the feeling that they're there. And then I'm gonna get it. It's not like just taking, stabbing, pointing to a place on the map and then just going to that particular place. But I can pretty much take any kind of map and look at it, look at your creeks, look at your rivers, look at other things that I won't get into, and then I go to the areas and just kind of just go with the feel that I get.
Yeah. Do you think they're attracted to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I can't prove that. It's just a feeling that I have. It's a feeling that nobody's ever going to take away from me. But if you ever talk to some people that I've been with, because I've never led really any investigations. I've always had the privilege of being with outlaws, being with beast members, being with the Bigfoot Odyssey. But people like to, it's hard to say this without, because Lord knows I'm not a conceited person. I don't want to sound conceited, but people like to have me along when we're there investigating. You can call it a magnet, you can call it attracted to, you can call it being marked. I can't say I know exactly what it is, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I know exactly what you're saying. I've been called out. BS. You're full of it. You're blah blah blah. But it's a thing. Whether it's your aura, whether it's your vibration pattern, whatever it is, I believe that they get you when you're young. Like you had that episode at the farm. I had one in the woods, and the woods closed in, and I didn't see anything. But I got huffed on the side of my face in a tent in Missouri, and it brought back that same feeling that I had when I was 10 years old.
Right.
Now, I'm not bragging either, and I'm with you, and I think this is why I do this. This is why I do this, to meet people like yourself, because I'm learning, and I'm it's I don't even know how to say it, but it's a breath of fresh air to know that there's someone else out there that's experiencing the same thing, and it's just not me, or it's just not. There's a lot of people that are experiencing this, and I don't even know how to word it right now. I'm all choked up, but it's powerful. That's why I'm having problems talking about it. I'm actually stuttering right now. So
the people that call BS on it, Chris, they don't feel what we feel, but they don't even get out there to try to feel what we feel.
Right.
And I always take that with a grain of salt. I've always been one that said, how do all these people have one encounter and then start a podcast? I did this for 12, 15 years before I ever actually came and started a YouTube channel. I mean, and really wanted to get into it. I never thought I would do that. I collected evidence for years and just, it was just for my benefit. That was it. I just was curious. I wanted to know. Last time I talked to Kerry, I promised him I was going to. He pushed me towards that. Dear God, I do not want to do this. He always wanted me to start and do it. And the last time I talked to him, which was when he was on his way to Texas, I told him I promised him I would, so I had to. I'm sorry.
Well, it's all right. He's missed, very much missed. No, you're gonna get me going too, but
I just wish he was here to see it.
Yeah.
But he sees it. But I just wish he was here to see it.
Got to carry on awareness. That's my main goal. You got to make people aware that, at least make them aware that they're there. Yeah. Hold on a second too. I got to catch. So, all right, here we go. Yeah. But anyways,
he was just such a good person. I don't even need to say that because we're gonna get us both checked.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go.
And I knew him so well, but I wished I'd have known him so much. You just don't know these things are gonna happen. If I had any kind of inclination, he just wasn't still gonna be around. I would have been so much even more closer to him.
Yep. I never got to.
Now, when I say that, I'm fully aware Kerry Arnold could piss some people off. Not saying that they were right in being pissed off, but he, if he did piss, folks off, it was more from just his belief and his standpoint. And I've had people tell me, in chat on the podcast, well, I didn't have that experience. Hey, look, I respect that. I'm not going to dog you out because you say you didn't like it. I'm just telling you my experience with it.
Right.
You can say yours, I can say mine, and then I can still be friends with you. You don't have to like Kerry Arnold for me to be friends with you. Right. But I'm not going to change my viewpoint on him just because somebody else,
Nope, no way.
Doesn't care for him.
No, I'm with you. We're already at we're almost at the hour mark already there, Bear, and we didn't even touch on nothing really. Let's touch a little bit on the incident you had at LBL. Before we take some questions, we're going to take questions after this, everybody, and all in cap letters for Mr. Bean. I'm
assuming you're referring to the kill site.
Yes.
Yes. We had a meet and eat. One of the things that Beast did is always called a meet and greet until we just plain have admitted that we're going to meet and greet, but we're going to eat. So, and eating was more important than greeting. So, the meet and eat ended. We didn't tell anybody we were going to do this. We didn't say that anything. So everybody kind of left. There was around 6 of us left. Mark, Larry, Hoosier Squatch, John Garrison, Hoosier son was there. I'm leaving out somebody. But I volunteered to do the spirit box. And as you know, as a spirit box, they can be so loud as they're scanning through the channels and so forth. So, hey, get away from, we went out there, set up a table, had 2 laptops going. And I go over to the spirit box, and it's kind of funny because I'll admit I'm at the LBO kill site with a spirit box. I'm kind of spooked. and I'd look up, and every time, either Larry or Mark would leave the table, they would have an entourage with FLIRs and everything else, and I was I kind of got aggravated at it. But it's funny, looking back on it. But and I'd run out of questions to ask the thing, and I asked the spirit, so I just said it out loud, and I knew not to ask anything personal, but I had just gotten to the point where I was bored with it, I was aggravated, and I popped out the question, "How did my cousin die?" And when that spirit box said shot, my life changed. I immediately turned and started walking back to that table where everybody else was at. And I shared this the other night with on Woodwalkers, and I'm gonna share it now. In my head, I remember thinking, well, how many times did he get shot? And as I'm walking back, I hear 2. I never said the question. I never asked the question. I mean, how can it answer a question anyway is beyond me. But how I think it may have answered a question that I was thinking. If I thought my life had changed, a minute before that, it really, really changed, when that happened. And then, so I got back around them. I think I even said what happened, at the table, and they can all tell, they know me. They know me now. They knew me then. They can tell something's up. So, Mark's FLIR was there, so I start looking through the FLIR, and he explains on camera, and anybody can go back and look at them. They're very good videos. I think everybody should. If you haven't seen those videos, go back and look at them. Because we have the live, and then we have the aftermath, which was the next week where we explain everything that happened. But Mark explains to me that the white's hot. He's got it set as white as hot. So I'm looking through the FLIR, and I'm looking at a humanoid figure that's solid black. So, and it's behind a tree. It's behind a tree, but it's not trying to hide behind a tree. It's more like it's just kind of standing next to the tree, like maybe with just half of its body kind of behind it, but definitely not trying to hide. I look back down. I asked Mark again about white being hot. Yes, white's hot. And I picked the FLIR back up and look, and it's at a tree to our right. It's a little bit closer to us. The tree is, but to our right, and this thing actually looked like it did. I don't know how to describe it other than it just melted into the ground. I could see the darkness that I was seeing from the humanoid figure, but now I'm seeing it on the ground, literally. But it's not like a person laying on the ground where you've got anything above the ground. It literally looked like it had soaked into the ground. I look back down, ask Mark, and all this is going through my head. I don't want to say all this on this live. I mean, everybody's going to think I'm nuts. So I look back down, ask Mark again about, are you sure why it's hot? And by this time, Mark's getting there. I know Mark's sitting there thinking, hey, man, how many times have you messed with FLIRs? You know what you're doing. Why are you asking all these questions? I'm assuming this is what he's thinking, because I know he's getting aggravated with me, but he doesn't know what I'm seeing. And then the third time I picked the thermal up and looked, it's one tree over toward the right, which was another a little bit closer to us. And that's the last. I mean, after that, I don't want to see it anymore. I will say this. I don't know how, but that thing, I couldn't see any face or features. It was just, shadow person, shadow figure, however you want to phrase it. There was, it was just, I could see the body, I could see the arms, I could see the legs, but no face and anything like that. But it moved, and I don't know if it was. I know the movement of it had something to do with it, but I don't know if I was getting some feelings from it too. But it was almost like that thing was smiling from ear to ear because it knew it was messing with my head, and it was seriously messing with my head. I don't know how it did it. My cousin had been shot 2-3 decades, at least 2 decades before that. Something I hadn't really thought about in a long time. I was in my own vehicle going back, and I mean, I'll admit, I got in my truck, and it's funny. Larry tells a story about how I ended up in my truck anyway, because I made us late getting there. But on the ride back, I cried probably harder than I ever cried as a kid. And I don't know why. I mean, it's just like it was something inside of me that was just pushing buttons on emotions. Just, you know, anything that's going to make you cry, I'm going to make you think about it. I can remember actually, I mean, I was wanting to just stop on the side of the road and sit there, and Mark and Larry in front of me in Larry's Jeep, and you know, they would go around the corner, and I would just slow down and almost ease off. And I think but they were not going, you know, thank God they wouldn't, uh, that they thought enough about me and enough about the situation where they always, you know, if I didn't come around that corner, they just reverse right back. And then when I saw them come back, I would, you know, start following them again. But I just needed that time by myself at that, you know, and at the time, you know, you know, you're out here, you know, doing these things that a lot of folks look at, you know, you're either crazy, you're super brave, you're crazy. I'm probably a whole lot more crazy than I am brave. I've always said that, but I that was really a life changing moment. Um, the other thing that happened at LBL, and I will show this. Something I don't show a lot. Chris, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but at another camp out that we had there, at LBL, we found a trackway. That video is also on the Beast Facebook page, but this is the cast from the track that I casted. Now on the trackway that we casted small prints, big prints, medium-sized prints. There was even two prints where you could actually see two big prints like this in the ground, and then two smaller prints looking at it, almost like a juvenile is looking at it, one of its parents. This was a place where the water had just been let down a little bit, and it was just the perfect mud. And I have one right here. I always kept it. What they were doing, they were going out and eating these freshwater mussels. And I say this because this is actually what made the. If you'll see, you can see the little knot right here. There was a when I right before I casted this print, I should have done it, but there was a leaf over this, and I pulled the leaf out, and then I pulled this out, not even thinking that it was going to kind of, you know, booger up the print, so to speak, a little bit. But that's, you know, the only print I've ever casted. Didn't ever in my life care about casting prints until I got this one. So hadn't found the, you know, I've seen prints, nothing that's really I thought castable since then. But you know, and I will admit, we sat around for 2 days discussing, are, are we being messed with? And I can remember taking Larry back out there and showing him, Larry, look at the prints, look at the mud, look at the prints. The only way you're going to fake not only one type of print, but 3 to 4 different size prints. And you can see where they would just walk out of the wood line up to the water line and then turn around and walk back. I mean, you know, but at that point in time, we were very experienced as a group, but not experienced with trackways. I guarantee you take the same folks and let us find something like that next month, we're going to handle it a whole different way than we did then. But that's all part of it. And as you know, you have these things that happen to you. You have the experience. You find these things, and if you think like I do, you're always thinking, you know, what could we have done better? You know, and you know, just being able to go through it once to see the mistakes we made, as far as, you know, maybe, you know, getting a little bit more, you know, evidence and so forth. But if you go back and look at the video on it, you can see the trackways there. But it wasn't like we found it. Patrick Noble, Shelly Reed are the ones that found the trackway. I always like to give them credit because they're the ones that found it. That thing was found actually before I ever got there. But I did go back out and show Larry. There is absolutely, you tell me how somebody faked all that and did not make a mark in the mud. I said, even if you were on cardboard scooting across it, there's gonna be some kind of slide mark. It was pristine except for the trackways. I'll go ahead and tell this right fast. I know we're getting up on time, but that's also when I went to get that print, I was the last one that decided they wanted to cast a print. Every time that I would go out there and check the print, the last day we were there, I would always, for some reason, I would step here or step there and just make this, sound like a blind 600-pound man walking through the woods, just noise, and the one time that I came through there and didn't make any noise, I actually had the thought, I was like, man, that was the quietest I've come out here today. And that's when I rounded the bend. The sun is setting, not setting, but the sun is behind the hill that's right behind this little bay. And there's a booger sitting right there, right where that cast is, still in the ground. And I watched it run up the hill on all fours. I know there was ones behind it. But I was so transfixed on it because it was and I know the position of the sun, it made it probably appear even darker than it was, but it was jet black. And you know how people have an encounter like that, the thing that stuck out to them is that when the first time it did his arms forward, it was almost kind of like Inspector Gadget. It was like the arms just kept going. That's how long the arms were. And I don't know if it was barking stuff. When I say barking, it wasn't literally like barking like a dog. I don't know if it was yelling at me or yelling at the movement behind it, because there was movement behind it in the woods, but I couldn't even concentrate on that because I've got one running up a hillside, diagonally up a hillside on all fours, right there in front of me. And that was probably the next closest experience on. I did not want to go out there and get that print. I didn't want to go get that print. But by that time I wanted the print so bad that I ended up going back out there, and for me to be able to get the print, I had to turn my back toward the wood line, and I'm getting pelted with tree bark, little sticks, don't remember so much any rocks or anything such as that, but and it was almost like, and it wasn't like one thing here, one thing there. It was like I would just get flurries of almost like somebody was just, throwing it up in there, and it was just all coming down on me at once. I believe there was probably at least 2 to 3 of them probably throwing things. There could have been more. But I also knew that if I didn't go get that print, I'm not going to say the name of what I was going to look like. And I was not going to look like that in front of, my research friends that I had done so much with before and wanted to do so much with afterwards. So I basically went back out there, got the print. I actually dug the print out. I literally dug the dirt out from under it and put it in a box, brought it back to Mississippi. Actually stopped at Vicky Fulcher's house in Tennessee, showed her, brought it back to Mississippi, and about 5 days after getting back is when I took the print out of the dirt, because I just did not. I was so scared it was going to break, And thank you, Rodney Beasley. I think he was the one that had the chicken wire that we ended up putting in the prints, kind of using it sort of like rebar. Thank you, Bama Murdoch, for heading up and kind of taking over that and leading us and guiding us in how we were going to do it. And thank you, Debbie Jones and Shelly because y'all, they left this spot in LBL, and they went to, and I don't even remember what little town it was that was close to it, but they went to this town and they bought every box of plaster of Paris that town had. But that was just a awesome experience to be able to go through.
Yeah, I remember when that all went down. Patrick's actually in the chat right now.
Yeah, I saw him earlier in there.
Dude, I got one more.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I got one question before we break off and to take a couple of questions from the audience. Do you think Now you had the paranormal experience with the ghost box, and you had you've having the Bigfoot experiences and the Sasquatch. Do you think it's all linked together?
Yes, but I can't begin to explain how. But yes, I do. I don't see how it couldn't be. And that's more just, going the years that I've done it and all the things that have happened and encompassing all that into your thought process. Yes, I do think it's related.
Yeah. I agree with you. All right, everybody, we're going to take a couple questions for Barry. I want to say thank you, Barry. Barry will be back. We're going to do another show. We knew we were going to run out of time tonight. My little grandbabies are very sick, so we can't keep them upstairs in their bedroom for too long. One has a serious ear infection, and the other one's got bronchitis, cough, and all stuff. So, and my studio's in my basement, so it's the stuff you gotta live with. But Be Kind here has a question for you. He or she, have they followed you home?
Yes, I've been whooped at twice at my house. A little background on that: I live, as a crow flies, a quarter mile from the Natchez Trace. I explain it like this: I'm a firm believer that if you go to their area enough, eventually they're going to come. And how they do it, I don't know, but they're going to find out where you live. And I think a lot of times it's just for their protection, because it's, they, a lot of times I don't know if they, even if you've been marked or they're seeing something in your aura or whatnot, I don't know for sure if they understand that, you might not ever come out there and just do some crazy, stupid stuff, or bring somebody that, that comes back later without you, that, so I think when they whooped at me at my house, it was more like just them saying, hey, just, you know where we're at. We know where you're at. And I was fine with that. Other than the fact that the first time, especially 2:30 in the morning, I come walking out my front door. The walkway kind of curves around to the driveway, and there's our house is here. And then there's one block, and then there's wood line that I can go to that wood line and get to the Natchez Trace. And never have to cross the road, because I can go through culverts the whole way. But not that they would have to go through the culverts in the middle of the night. But yeah, when it whooped, I could have stood there 30 or 40 seconds probably. I literally just stopped. No, I did not just hear that. Yes, I just heard that. And it happened again a few months later. But I always, for some reason, something always told me that it wasn't for an intimidation factor. It wasn't for anything. It was just more or less just, hey, just letting you know we're here.
I'll have to agree with you on that one. I think they, like you said, were marked. They mark you somehow, and that's how they're attracted.
That was a great question by Be Kind. I'm glad that they asked that.
Miss Francesca asks, what is the pooch's name lying on the couch?
That is Skillet. That is Skillet. That's my death Catahoula. He's not feeling too well today. He had his heartworm shot today, and I had forgotten the last time that he had his heartworm. Get him every year, and I forgot that he didn't feel very good the last time he had it. But his name is Skillet. I don't think I have one here in front of it, but a very dear friend of mine, Leanne Young, actually submitted his picture and her son's dog's picture to a calendar, a pet calendar, and lo and behold, he made it. So he'll be in, I forget the name of the calendar, but May of this year, his picture's there. And I'll try to have that to show it to everybody next time. I don't know. I was pretty proud of it. He's a beautiful dog. He was pick of the litter. He was just deaf. I never wanted a deaf dog. Never thought I'd end up with a deaf dog. But as I feel other things after inquiring about him, because when the lady advertised him, it was special needs, which told me nothing, and I was just kind of curious. There he is. He's stretching up a little bit. But that's my research partner, man.
Nice. So everybody has now met Skillet. Barry, the story you told about the man, well, Miss Diane Fowler asked, Barry, the story you told about the man who stopped feeding them and they followed him home, how close did he live to you?
Well, she probably asked how close he lived at the time. I mean, to me, probably 20 miles, but I think she's probably referring to how far did they travel to get to his house. Somewhere between 40 and 50 miles. And they were there 3.5, 4 hours later. How they can do that? That's just another thing we're trying to figure out, you know?
No, I'm with you. We're going to have to stay in touch because we got a lot of the same things going on.
Thank you, Iron Dogger. You're too sweet.
You got a lot
You're
of those
awesome. You're awesome yourself, young lady.
So I think that's it for the questions. I want to play something that I'm trying to make a video. Everybody know about my last outing, and Barry brought up that the weird voices and sounds, and I get a lot of that since this is all the crazy stuff's been going on. But you're gonna hear. I just wanted to play for everybody. The video will be out soon enough because of my eye, whatever failed, but it's coming. You're gonna hear a rock being thrown over our head. You'll hear it crash down. You hear it go down the bank, and you'll hear me say, "They're here." And then you will hear Larry said, "I heard that." And then you will hear a woman's voice at the end say, "They're here." And that is not us. So I want you to just listen to this. This is pretty spooky. And this is at the top of Rock Throw Alley. Told you, they're here. No, Spencer mixed all that up for us. That last "they're here," that woman's voice is none of the team. Again, you'll hear the Stone, you'll hear me, you'll hear Larry, and then you'll hear the female voice. Told you, they're here. It's just freaky stuff, man. Well, what do you think, Barry? Why do you think do you think that's the Sasquatch, or do you think that's a whole different entity?
Only because of the sound of the voice, I would say different entity, but that's just a stab in the dark, yes. I've told you about it, and this is stuff that will be coming out on my channel. As quick as I can get it there, but I've got audio where you got birds chirping, everything going on, and then all of a sudden you hear Barry. They literally say my name, and it happened again a couple or 3 hours later. My name is literally whispered into the recorder.
Crazy. Yeah, Digger Dog. No, we didn't hear that. They're here, and there's more recordings from that day at the top of the mountain. Very crazy. All right, here's the last question we're gonna for Barry. Then we're gonna get going here. It's from Iron Dogger. How would you suggest to do a calling in multiple times spaced out in intervals, or just one at a time as you head out?
How would you suggest to do a calling in multiple times, or just one time as you head out? I'm gonna tell you how we do calling. We do calling in a lot. Hey, bud. We do. Most time when we call, I've actually kind of gotten snippy with some folks in some Bigfoot groups before because they kind of would laugh at us, crazy asses going out sorry for the language, going out in the middle of the woods and doing Bigfoot calls. And I had to jump back on them and say, look, man, what's crazy is you think we go 3 miles out in the woods and start calling. We're calling from the safety of our vehicle being right there. Now, we may be in the middle of BFE, and we always are at LBL, but we don't go off in the woods doing it, And I don't know if that answers your question because I don't know if I understood it exactly. But never call from your house. I would suggest not even calling. You know, I've been around folks that do it. Just my personal belief, I wouldn't even call from the campsite I was at. You know, we don't do that either. We go and call. But maybe next time, I know, and I saw Con Squatch in the chat earlier, and thank you, but thank you for sending it to me on email, Cons. I never emailed you back to tell you I got it, but maybe we can play the call where I did that LBL where I call. You can hear me do a call, and then you can hear, almost an immediate answer.
That'd be awesome. We'll get all that stuff loaded up, and I just wanted to show you guys a little brief video of what we got coming up on the next show, and then we're gonna say goodbye to our friend, and I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys, and let everybody get on with their night. So this is what we have in store for the next round with Barry. So that is what we got coming up next. We're gonna go to the other side of Sasquatch, and we're gonna get really we're gonna talk about vibrations and frequencies and again by accident. So well, I want to say thank you so much, Barry, for taking time and coming and hanging out with us on a Tuesday night. And Skillet.
Thank you for letting me on, Chris. I owe you a lot more thanks than you owe me. I appreciate it. I had a blast.
And we're going to help you get your stuff up and running here in the near future, and we're looking forward to that. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and for everybody that's here tonight, thank y'all. It's awesome to see folks that actually want to hear you talk. So thank y'all.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Barry Browning. All right. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. You guys are always a great audience. Thank you all for being so kind. I like the way you guys all converse with each other in the chat room. Everybody's very nice to each other, and that's very much appreciated. It makes the job for the wrenches. I guess that's what they call them. I call my friends easy, that they don't have to monitor you guys all night long, and we're all grown-ups here, and I applaud you all for that. So don't forget, next week, D.D. Harrison and MK will be on the show, and we are going to show never-before-seen footage of what we believe is a Sasquatch in Texas in the shrubs. D.D. sent it to myself, and I sent it to MK, and we stabilized it, and it's pretty good footage, in my opinion. Again, it's not patty footage, but it's something to see. So definitely stop by next Tuesday at 8 and check that out. So we will have Barry back again, and don't forget the t-shirts. We'll be up and running here by Thanksgiving. By then I'll know all our plans and what's coming up. We got some pretty good stuff coming up. So thank you all for showing up, and you know what's next. You know what our friend Larry says. Get in the woods, people.